Let me tell you about my life before everything fell apart. Or maybe, before everything came together. I'm Emily Westwood, a 42-year-old woman who once had big dreams of climbing the corporate ladder in New York City. But somewhere along the way, I traded boardrooms for bake sales and power suits for yoga pants. Don't get me wrong. I love being a mom to Lily, my brilliant but moody teenage daughter, but sometimes late at night when the house is quiet, I wonder what happened to the ambitious woman I used to be. My husband, Jonathan? He's a successful lawyer with a corner office in Manhattan, always dressed in tailored suits and smelling faintly of cologne that costs more than my monthly grocery bill. We've been married for almost 20 years, but lately, it feels like we're just roommates sharing a mortgage and an awkward silence over dinner. I first heard Samantha's name in passing during one of Jonathan's vague explanations about his late nights at work. She was apparently some art gallery owner he'd met at a charity gala, a detail he mentioned so casually that it didn't even register as suspicious. At least, not then. Looking back now, I can see how blind I was. Samantha Blake wasn't just another name. She was the woman who would shatter my world. She's everything I'm not. Bold, glamorous, and unapologetically herself. The kind of woman who wears red lipstick without caring if it smudges on her wine glass. And while I was busy folding laundry and helping Lily with algebra homework, she was building a life with my husband. It started small, like cracks in a foundation you don't notice until the walls start caving in. There were the missed family dinners, the excuses about client meetings that dragged on past midnight, and the way Jonathan seemed distracted whenever I asked him how his day went. Then there was the lipstick stain on his collar, a shade of crimson, so bold it screamed affair. I remember holding that shirt in my hands, staring at the smear of color like it was written evidence of betrayal. But instead of confronting him, I shoved it into the hamper and told myself I must have imagined it. After all, Jonathan wouldn't do that to me, right? One evening, after yet another excuse about working late, I decided enough was enough. When Jonathan walked through the door smelling like expensive perfume, I couldn't hold back anymore. "What's going on, Jonathan?" I demanded, waving the stained shirt in front of his face. He froze for a second, then laughed it off. "Oh, you know how crowded those events are. Someone probably bumped into me." His words sounded rehearsed, like he'd practiced them in the mirror. Still, I wanted to believe him. Maybe because admitting the truth meant facing something I wasn't ready for. A few days later, our nosy neighbor Karen pulled me aside while I was watering the plants. "You know," she said with a conspiratorial whisper, "I saw Jonathan getting out of a cab near that trendy apartment building in Brooklyn last week. You sure he's not seeing someone else?" Her comment hit me like a punch to the gut. I brushed it off with a forced laugh, telling her she must be mistaken. But deep down, her words stuck with me. That night, I stayed up Googling "signs your spouse is cheating" and found article after article that matched my situation perfectly. It felt like the universe was screaming at me to wake up. I knew I needed proof before I could confront Jonathan again. So, I did what any betrayed wife in a Lifetime movie would do. I hired a private investigator. Sitting in that dingy office, explaining why I was there, was humiliating. I felt like a cliché, a sad middle-aged woman clinging to the wreckage of her marriage. But desperation will make you do things you never thought you'd do. The PI promised results within 2 weeks, and I spent every day waiting for that call, oscillating between rage and despair. When the PI finally called, I almost didn't answer. I sat on the edge of my bed, heart pounding, as he described the photos he'd taken. Jonathan kissing a blonde woman outside her apartment, receipts from fancy restaurants, hotel key cards. It was all there, black and white proof of his lies. The worst part, the blonde woman was Samantha Blake. I hung up the phone and cried until my chest hurt. Then I dried my tears and made a decision. This was no longer just about saving my marriage. It was about saving myself. After confirming Jonathan's affair, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I snuck into his bathroom one morning and swiped a razor blade with stray whiskers still clinging to it. Gross. Absolutely. Necessary. Definitely. I sent the sample to a DNA lab along with one the PI obtained from Samantha. Waiting for the results was agony. Every time Jonathan kissed me goodbye or asked how my day was, I wanted to scream, "How dare you pretend everything's fine?" Instead, I smiled and played the role of the clueless wife, biding my time. While waiting for the DNA results, I realized I couldn't let Jonathan's betrayal consume me entirely. I joined a local book club, where I met women who became my lifeline. They listened to my rants, shared their own stories of heartbreak, and reminded me that I deserved better. One Saturday afternoon, I picked up a paintbrush for the first time in years. As I swirled colors across the canvas, I felt a spark of joy I hadn't experienced in ages. For the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future without Jonathan, and it wasn't as terrifying as I thought. The day I confronted Jonathan, I felt like a different person. Armed with the DNA test results, I laid everything out on the table, the photos, the receipts, the baby growing inside Samantha's belly. His face turned pale as he stammered excuses, claiming he'd been trapped in a loveless marriage. Trapped? I snapped. You think I haven't felt trapped too? The difference is I stayed loyal. I gave him an ultimatum: leave me and admit the truth, or fight me in court. Either way, I wasn't backing down. Through the PI, I learned that Samantha was 5 months pregnant and fully intended to raise the baby with Jonathan's support. This revelation broke something inside me, not because I cared about Jonathan's happiness, but because it confirmed how little regard he had for our family. I debated telling Lily, fearing it might damage her relationship with her father. In the end, I decided honesty was the best policy. She took the news hard, crying and yelling at Jonathan during a tense family meeting. Watching her defend me gave me strength I didn't know I had. The moment I opened the envelope containing the DNA results, my hands trembled. The lab report confirmed what I already suspected. Jonathan was the father of Samantha's unborn child. I stared at the paper, feeling numb. All those years of sacrifice, compromise, and love reduced to nothing. That night, I drove to a secluded park and sat in my car, clutching the report. Tears streamed down my face as I processed the magnitude of his betrayal. Yet amidst the pain, a strange clarity emerged. I realized I wasn't just fighting for justice. I was fighting for my freedom. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen where Jonathan was sipping his coffee like nothing was wrong. He glanced up, probably expecting another mundane day, but what he saw in my eyes stopped him cold. "We need to talk," I said, slamming the DNA report onto the counter. His face went white as he skimmed the document. For a moment, he just stared at it, then looked at me with this pathetic mix of guilt and panic. "Emily, please let me explain," he stammered. But I wasn't interested in his excuses anymore. "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? That you're having a baby with someone else while pretending to be a devoted husband and father?" My voice cracked, but I didn't care. I wanted him to feel every ounce of shame I'd been carrying. Later that evening, I called Lily downstairs for a family meeting. Jonathan tried to back out, muttering something about work calls, but I wouldn't let him off the hook. Sitting across from us, Lily listened silently as I explained everything: his affair, Samantha's pregnancy, and the DNA results. When I finished, she exploded. "How could you do this to Mom? To us?" she screamed, her voice shaking. Jonathan tried to defend himself, saying he'd made mistakes but still loved us. Lily cut him off. "If you loved us, you wouldn't have ruined our family." She stormed upstairs, leaving behind a suffocating silence. I felt torn between comforting her and confronting him further, but one thing was clear: we weren't the same family anymore. Filing for divorce was both liberating and terrifying. I hired Rachel Myers, a no-nonsense attorney recommended by my book club friend Karen. Rachel assured me we had a strong case, especially since Jonathan had drained our joint savings account to fund Samantha's lavish lifestyle. The legal battle turned ugly fast. Jonathan accused me of being an unfit mother, claiming my emotional instability during the separation affected Lily. It hurt, hearing him twist the truth like that, but I refused to play victim. Instead, I leaned on my support system: Rachel, my friends, and even Lily, who stood firmly by my side. Through snippets of conversations overheard and texts intercepted, yes, I hacked his phone, don't judge, I learned that Samantha was pressuring Jonathan to leave me immediately. She threatened to go public with their affair if he didn't commit fully to her and their unborn child. Meanwhile, Jonathan was stuck in limbo, too selfish to abandon Lily but too weak to resist Samantha's demands. One night, I overheard him arguing on the phone in his study. "I can't just walk away from everything," he shouted. I almost laughed. Too late for that, buddy. Things came to a head when I discovered Jonathan had secretly transferred more money to Samantha. I confronted him again, this time in front of Lily. You're choosing her over us. I spat, throwing bank statements on the table. Lily looked horrified, and Jonathan finally broke down. I don't know what I want anymore, he cried. Pathetic. At that moment, I realized there was no saving him or us. He burned every bridge, leaving only ashes behind. As Lily and I packed our bags to stay with my parents temporarily, I felt a strange sense of peace. This chapter of my life was ending, but a new one was beginning. After weeks of chaos, I finally moved into a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. It wasn't much, but it was mine, a fresh start. Lily adjusted surprisingly well, finding comfort in the city's energy and her school's drama club. Without Jonathan's constant presence, our bond grew stronger. We spent weekends exploring museums, trying new restaurants, and laughing until our sides hurt. Slowly but surely, we were rebuilding our lives without him. Work became my anchor. I landed a part-time position at a boutique marketing agency, thanks to Karen's recommendation. My creativity flourished, and soon I was leading campaigns that earned rave reviews from clients. Outside of work, I embraced new hobbies, yoga, photography, even salsa lessons. Each activity reminded me of who I was before Jonathan consumed my identity. For the first time in years, I felt alive, and when men started showing interest in me again, I politely declined. I wasn't ready to jump into anything serious, not yet, but knowing I had options gave me confidence. Therapy helped me process everything. At first, I resented the idea of forgiving Jonathan, but my therapist explained it differently. Forgiveness isn't about excusing his behavior, she said. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of bitterness. Those words stuck with me. Letting go of anger didn't mean forgetting or condoning what he did. It meant choosing happiness over hatred. Over time, I found myself smiling more, sleeping better, and dreaming bigger. Jonathan's betrayal had shattered me, but it also forced me to rebuild myself stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Jonathan's world crumbled around him. Samantha dumped him after realizing he couldn't provide the luxurious lifestyle she craved. Stripped of assets and alienated from his family, he struggled to keep his law firm afloat. Rumors spread about his infidelity, damaging his reputation irreparably. Occasionally, I'd hear updates from mutual acquaintances, but they barely registered. Jonathan's downfall was his own doing, and honestly, I felt nothing but indifference. 6 months after filing for divorce, the papers were finalized. Standing in my lawyer's office, signing my name on the dotted line, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was official. I was free. That evening, Lily and I celebrated with pizza and ice cream, laughing about how far we'd come. Mom, she said, you're like a superhero now. Her words brought tears to my eyes. Maybe I wasn't perfect, but I was enough, for her, for myself, and for whatever came next. Late one night, I sat at my desk writing a letter to my younger self, the ambitious woman who once dreamed of conquering the world. Dear Emily, I began, life will throw curveballs you never saw coming. People you trust will betray you, and sometimes, love won't be enough to fix things. But here's the good news. You are stronger than you think. You will rise above heartbreak, rediscover your passions, and build a life that makes you proud. Remember this. Your worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion of you. Be brave, be bold, and most importantly, be true to yourself. With each passing day, I embraced my independence more fully. Work continued to thrive, and I even considered starting my own consulting business. Friends encouraged me to date again, but I took it slow, focusing on healing rather than rushing into something new. Lily remained my rock, and together, we navigated life's ups and downs with laughter and resilience. Our little family of 2 was imperfect, but it was ours, and that made it beautiful. As I stood on my balcony one crisp autumn morning, watching the sun rise over the Manhattan skyline, I felt a profound sense of hope. The road ahead wasn't guaranteed to be smooth, but I knew I could handle whatever challenges came my way. Life had taught me that endings often lead to beginnings, and this particular beginning felt limitless. With a soft smile, I whispered to myself, "Here's to you, Emily Westwood. The best is yet to come."